Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Zeniton. Welcome to today's video for Legends of Runeterra. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. First off, the reveals, they just keep on coming for the spoiler season for the upcoming set for Legends of Runeterra, Cosmic Creation. Today, Riot has unveiled 7 new cards, 2 of which are landmarks, 1 for Demacia, 1 for Targon, one of which I think is really good. The other of which I think is a absolute meme, but a fun meme at the very least. I'm already messing up my English, wow. So, enough talking and rambling, let's get into it and start looking at the cards, because I have a lot I want to talk about for each of the cards. Alright, here we go. As you can see, 7 cards, 2 for Shadow Isles, 2 for Demacia, and 3 for Targon. I actually think every single card here... Well, let me rephrase that, because not everyone. I think most of the cards here are playable in Constructed. Now, which one are those? Well, it's obviously not the Targon Landmark. The Targon Landmark, in my opinion, is really, really bad. I think it is absolute garbage and a meme. However, I think that's fine. I think it is fine because, one, Targon's already really strong itself, so it's fine. It doesn't get that many powerful new cards like a powerful landmark. And 2, I think it's fine that cards get into the game that are not really good and constructed playable for like competitive play, but are fun because it gets a more casual crowd interested in the game. You know, those kind of players who are like, I don't care about winning too much. I just want to play like cool, fun combos. You know, the Timmies and Johnnies, if you want to use the Timmy Johnny Spike analogy. Now, let's start talking about the cards individually themselves. First up, we have Pesky Spectre. I don't know how to evaluate this card. I actually think it is bad. But you just know a lot of people are going to play this card, and they're going to like play it, and then they're going to flood their opponent's decks with Pesky Spectres. The issue is, in terms of competitive play, and why I think you will never see it in competitive play, is it doesn't affect the board or even your opponent's hand or your hand. It doesn't really do anything. At best, you can play it to block, I think. I guess if you also want to really get down to it, it's a 0 mana ephemeral, so it combos kind of well with Deathmark, but you want this thing to die too, is the other problem. So, I don't know. I guess also you could combine it with maybe some buffs, so that's kind of cool, but I don't know how much you want to buff this thing. Maybe you use Encroaching Shadows, but it only affects the cards that are in your deck and hand at the moment, not forever. It's not like a Cosmic Inspiration, this 7 mana Celestial spell, 7 mana Invoke spell, whatever it is, that gives everything +2/+2 on your side. So yeah, I think this card is also mostly a meme, but you know, it's gonna get to it's gonna make a fun spooky fiesta of you play the Spectres, then your opponent plays Spectres, and then you're both playing Spectres, and then your entire board is just Spectres, and then you keep drawing cards and they're just more Spectres. I've seen even some people who are more competitive minded than me say that maybe against Go Hard decks you can use this. I don't think you should try to use this to counter Go Hard in the first place. I think if you want to counter Go Hard, just play Noplify. Sure, that's in Ionia and this is Shadow Isles, but I think there are better ways to try and target Go Hard than playing this card. Next up, though, we have a card that I think is good. We got Evershade Stalker, 2 mana 2/2, ephemeral, fearsome, can't block. Nightfall, create a copy of me in hand. There's a lot of text, a lot of stuff going on right here. First off, for the stat line, kind of weak. 2 mana for a 2/2, that's kind of what you expect from a 1-drop. However, I think his keywords help him out. Now, I don't see this as a 2-drop play. I think you have to play this around like turn 6, turn 7, turn 8-ish, somewhere around there at the very earliest. Like, sure, you can technically play it on 2, but you probably don't, because I think you have to get Nightfall off with this guy. Like, I guess if you have spell mana, you could play this on 2 with like a 1 mana spell or something. But I feel like if you don't get Nightfall off with this guy, you just played a 2-mana 2/2 Fearsome Ephemeral, and that's bad. But I do think Nightfall decks, which always seem to be on the fringe of playability, and Fearsome Aggro too, which is really, really good right now if you keep up with the meta. I think those two decks not love, but like this card. The issue I'm seeing with this card for those decks are those two decks are very tight and very streamlined aggro decks, and it would be very hard for them, I think, to cut some cards out to fit this card in their deck. Not sure. It's really powerful, though. Like, the card in a vacuum is extremely powerful, because you can just play the card, obviously having Nightfall active. You play the card, you get another in hand. And I mean, and Nightfall is still active, obviously, so you can keep playing these and playing these and playing these as long as you have the mana. So, I'm thinking maybe you can go to Bilgewater, get a Smooth Soloist. I don't know if the copies will still be discounted, but I think they should be. So then you can play units over and over and over with that Smooth Soloist. I don't know if that's actually good, if that actually does anything. But I do think there's a lot of potential here with this card. It's just going to take someone smarter and better at the game than me to break it. So yeah, very nice, very strong, lots of potential behind the card. Next up, we got the Grand Plaza. The card here that I think is, in my opinion, the strongest overall of all of these cards that we've seen for today. Not overall so far. I don't actually know what I would say is the strongest card we've seen yet, but Grand Plaza, in my opinion, is extremely powerful. Sure, it has the landmark problem, and it doesn't really do anything when you play it, but it's cheap. It's 3 mana. Real quick, let's read it. 3 mana, landmark. When an ally is summoned, give it +1/+1 and challenger this round. That's pretty nice, first off. Demacia decks have always kind of struggled to remove things with removal. Sure, they have concerted strikes and single combats and judgment if you really want to, but again, they're not amazing. It feels like it's just a weakness of Demacia. They're just not really strong in terms of removal. Usually that's what their second region's trying to help them with, or they got to play big stuff and play the fight spells, basically. But I really like this card. It's good on both offense and defense. Not as good on defense, of course, because you can't make use of the challenger, but the +1/+1 buff really, really helps out, even though it is temporary. Also, the deck I see at first that this card goes into is, first off, pretty much any Demacia deck that's not like Scouts, I guess, would like this deck or this card. But the deck I think loves this card the most at the moment is probably Dragons. Dragons is a deck that, in my opinion, is very, very, very close to being playable. It's like just right outside of the meta, just on the cusp of exploding into playability. And I feel like it's because their early game's just a little lackluster, and they can't really catch up. They have a hard time catching up from a strong early game opponent's deck. Grand Plaza doesn't really fix that as a lot, but it does help them out. Turn 3 for Dragons is a fairly weak turn for them. They're usually not playing anything that costs 3 mana. They're usually just playing like a spell or maybe a unit that costs like 2 or something. Whatever. But the curve I'm already imagining is turn 1 and 2 or whatever. Doesn't really matter. Ignore that. Turn 3, Grand Plaza. Turn 4, Shyvana. And let's assume you're attacking as well on turn 4. You're attacking in on turn 4 with a 6/6 challenger. If I remember correctly, I think Shyvana has to see Dragons deal 12 damage for her to level up. That's already halfway of a level up for Shyvana. So I think this card is great for Shyvana decks in general. Again, pretty much any Demacia deck likes this, except for the most aggro of aggro-y decks. The cards don't even have to be Demacian cards. It doesn't even have a a limit. It's just like any ally is summoned. It's not like only, and it doesn't have to even, it doesn't even say, sorry, let me try to think what I'm saying here before I actually say it. It doesn't say like any Demacia ally or any elite. It just says ally. So units, followers, champions, they all love this card. So, you know, put on play this card, play a dragon like, I don't know, Eclipse Dragon, Aurelion Soul, get Challenger going. It's great. Now, we are getting more landmark removal in this game, but I feel like as long as this card is able to get you one favorable trade, it's already done work. And then if it eats a landmark removal, it traded 1-for-1 with a spell, and it gave you value with that favorable trade with the Challenger. I like it. And again, like I've said it before, +1/+1 on defense helps you get favorable trades too, so that's nice. So, in my opinion, probably one of the most powerful cards we've seen so far in all of the spoiler season. Definitely, in my opinion, the strongest card out of all of these 7 we've seen for today. And I even think it might even need to get a nerf, in all honesty, in the future, depending on like what the meta turns into. This card is just so good. And here's the other thing I'm thinking, maybe this card is the card that makes Out of the Way playable. If you don't remember what Out of the Way is, it is the 5-mana Targon spell from the KDA cards that says, for the rest of the game, all of your buffs except for, I think, Barrier are permanent. And then you also get to draw 1 as well. So that +1/+1 in Challenger, if you play Out of the Way, will become permanent. The problem is you have to play Out of the Way. So, I don't know. But I think Out of the Way does like to be played in Demacia decks the most. So, you know, you're getting something there. Anyway, though, I've been rambling about this card a lot. I feel like you can probably tell I think this card's amazing. It's really strong. I'm going to enjoy it. Everyone's going to enjoy it until we see it a lot, and then people will start teching in like Scorched Earths and stuff, and then everyone's going to be like, okay, we can deal with this. Or maybe we won't be able to deal with it. Next up, let's stay with Demacia. Let's talk about Captain Erica, or Arica, however you pronounce her name. Captain Arica. I pronounce it Captain Arica, I guess. Captain Arica is a 8-mana 6/6 elite spell shield. When you player, capture a unit or landmark. I think it's pretty good as a card. It's been a while since we've seen just a really strong elite, in my opinion. Also, quick note, I think this card also helps out Swiftwing Lancer, the 5-mana 5/4 Challenger that when it dies, you get a random elite. I think this is a good elite to get randomly, like this and 6-mana Cytherea are some of the elites you would probably want. I think this card is playable in Constructed. I don't know what kind of deck wants this card at the moment is the issue, because elite decks are mostly just mid-range decks, I've noticed, like Bannerman, sort of. So, and they don't really like this effect. So maybe you'll just play it outside of elite decks. But non-elite, like non-mid-range Demacia decks just have Concerted Strike, and their second region has their removal. So I feel like this is going to be a case of a powerful card that just doesn't have a home. And I think this card is playable purely because of the Spell Shield. The Spell Shield makes it so I think the capture is actually not that big of a liability. Also, a 6/6 body, while not the biggest, that's more of the stats of a 6-drop. It's not terribly small. And again, this is Demacia's landmark removal, it seems. I think this means now every region has landmark removal. I might be missing 1 or 2, but in my mind, every region should have landmark removal now. I can't think of a region that doesn't. So again, like other landmark removal cards I've talked about, you might see this played even if it doesn't see play immediately, if we get into a landmark heavy meta, just because, you know, you might want to kill a landmark in your secondary region. Their landmark removal spell sucks and you would rather play this. So yeah, pretty good. You can also do, of course, like silences. If your opponent tries to kill this with like a Vile Feast Vengeance, you can play like Purify or Hush or whatever. So that's cute too. Pretty strong card. I just struggle to see like where this card is going to go in maybe a new deck that we just don't have yet. Next up, though, a card I am a fan of as well. I don't know just how good this card is. I think this card is good. Solari Sunforger, 4 mana, 5/4, Daybreak. Give me lifesteal this round. Very plain, very simple kind of card. Still good. Not a very complex card. And I've seen a lot of people be like, oh, he's so boring. He doesn't really do much. That's fine. Boring is fine if it's strong. Good stat line, good keywords, or just good text in general. Makes this card actually really strong. Leona decks in general have kind of struggled here on turn 4 because besides Leona, they don't really have anything they want to play on turn 4. They have Mountain Scryer, the 4 mana 2/3 Allegiance if they are an Allegiance list, but a lot of decks like to forego Allegiance and play things like Demacia cards like Concerted Strike and Single Combats and Judgments. So, and Radiant Guardians as well. So you might ask yourself, so now by cutting, you can now cut Radiant Guardian, put in the Sunforger, and maybe you can go back into an Allegiance deck, maybe? I don't know. I'm very iffy on this card. I think it's strong, but I like Radiant Guardian because repeatable value of getting to strike multiple times, and tough. Tough is nice too. I do like that this card has just enough health. Like I think 4 health is just enough to make it so it's playable. I think if a 4-drop has 3 health, it better do something really good for it to come down on 4, because it's usually gonna die on turn 4 if it has 3 health. Now, of course, you have to Daybreak, so you can't really play anything else. That's fine, of course. And of course, I like this card with Ravoon, too. This card really helps him out. He's already a good card, Ravoon is. But I think this card, sure, it makes it so Ravoon has a little more RNG and the variance increases a bit. But I think, on average, this increases Ravoon's value generating, if that makes sense. Because, like, whenever I play Ravoon in my decks, I'm usually looking for certain Daybreak cards, like the Sunburst card, I believe that's the name of it. The 6 mana deal 6, Daybreak silences it as well. Solari Priest is another thing I'm looking for. Like, those are the 2 cards I look for the most. Sometimes I want to see a Morning Light, and sure, like, if you get a Solari Soldier or Shield Bearer, it kind of feels bad, but it's still, those are also fine. But having the ability to get Sunforger, I think, is really good. I think, like, no matter what matchup you're against, getting Sunforger will always feel fine. And if you're against aggro, getting Sunforger will feel really good from Ravoon because, you know, aggro, lifesteal, GG, easy. So yeah, I like the card. Very simple, not complex at all, but I think it's really, really good. Next up, we have Moonlight Affliction. I don't know about this card. I think I've said that about like every single card so far, except for like maybe Grand Plaza or something. I don't think this card is good. A lot of people have been telling me this card is actually a lot stronger than you think, streamer. They're like, it's Hush, but it affects 2 units and it has a Nightfall ability. I'm like, yeah, but it's also 5 mana. That's a lot of mana. Sure, it can hit champions too, and I believe Riot themselves has said like silencing champions is a thing they want Targon to be able to do consistently, which is nice that it can hit champions. But again, it's 5 mana. That's so much mana. For the same amount of mana, you can play Concerted Strike. I really think any deck that's going to play this is going to play it for the Nightfall, because it's going to be more of an aggressive deck. Like, we haven't seen Zoe yet, but I just assume Zoe's going to be a lower to the ground card. Like small invokes, maybe like invoke aggro, which sounds like a meme at the moment, but maybe like Zoe, Lulu, some weird support, invoke aggro, and it will Nightfall, use this card to stun 2 units, and then attack in, because it is a burst speed spell. Again, burst speed is really good since you don't have to pass priority. And I think this is our first burst speed stun as well. There might be another that I can't think of, but I'm pretty sure this is the first burst speed stun. So that's pretty nice. So I think that's how you should play this card. Don't use it as like a 5-mana Hush that can hit 2 units. I think that's bad because sure, Hush is strong, but it's strong because it's so cheap. So maybe this is I think this is playable, but I don't think it is going to be used for predominantly for the silence. I think it's going to be used as a finisher that doesn't have to only be a finisher, but if you want it to, you can use it to Hush or silence 2 units to get a favorable trade or something, if that makes sense. I hope it makes sense. And next up, for last and pretty much least, we have Targon's Peak. 5-mana landmark. It's Targon's landmark, by the way, as evidenced by the name, obviously. But 5-mana landmark. At the start of the round, reduce the cost of a random card in each player's hand to 0 this round. Another symmetrical card. I think this one is extremely garbage. The dream is like, you play this card, you pass, next round starts. And you hit a big card like Aurelian Soul or something, and your opponent hits like something small, like a Vile Feast or, I don't know, a 1-drop or something. Something that's inconsequential, basically. I really don't think this card is playable for at a competitive level. I think this is going to be a card you're going to see mostly as a meme or just in the normal queue, not the ranked queue. And the reason for that is, again, in a competitive format, I feel like you don't want too much variance in your deck. It's one of the reasons why Draven Ezreal is such a good deck at the moment. It's a very consistent deck. And second off, Targon's Peak has the landmark problem, and that is it's a landmark that comes down and does nothing. You're spending 5 mana to do nothing. It's also another reason why Vaults of Helia, while powerful, doesn't really see too much play outside of a meme every now and again you might see on YouTube or something. Also, since you have literally almost no control over what's getting discounted, unless of course you have like a 1-card hand, I really don't think this card is playable for a competitive level. Like, you want to control variance in card games, and you can't really control the variance of Targon's Peak. You can build your deck around it by putting in a lot of late game stuff, and then you lose to an aggro deck, or maybe you play it, and then it hits that one anti-aggro card instead of like all the big stuff in your hand. Meanwhile, and again, like, the variance will go in favor of your opponent sometimes. They'll get their big finisher on like turn 6 or something. They'll play like, I don't know, Riptide Rex, Captain Farron, whatever, Bright Steel formation on turn 6, and you'll just cry. So yeah, I think it's a terrible card. Oh, also Feel the Rush. Feel the Rush, I guess, is a dream card to get or to play with Targon's Peak. So yeah, a meme card that I don't think is playable at all in Constructed. You'll still see it because it looks fun and it's a meme and people love fun and people love memes in card games, so you'll see it. But I think if you see it, you should realize your opponent's not really playing a serious deck. But I am prepared to be completely wrong here. I am ready to see the Targon's Peak meta. I hope we never see a Targon's Peak meta because honestly that sounds like a terrible meta. But I am willing to be wrong on this because it sounds like it would be hilarious to watch and terrible to play a Targon's Peak meta. So that's going to be it. Some very, very strong cards that help out archetypes that were struggling a little bit, like dragons. Good cards like the Solari Sunforger that just help out archetypes that are already decent, like Leona and Invoke. Evershade Stalker helps out Fearsome and Nightfall aggro. Pretty nice day. Very strong cards today, unlike, I believe, yesterday, where most of the cards were kind of mediocre. Today, we got a lot of powerful cards. So, I think that will be it for today. Long video today, it seems. I rambled a lot about Grand Plaza, I think. But still, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If there are any other decks you are thinking about trying these new cards in, I would love to hear it down below in the comments. If you also just enjoyed the video, I'd love it if you could leave a like or a comment down below. And if you guys want to keep up with the Runeterra content and any other content I make, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, if you want to catch me playing some Legends of Runeterra, I stream pretty much every day over at my Twitch TV account, twitch.tv/Zenaton. Having a good time over there. So yeah, that's it. Thank you all again once more for watching this video, and until I see you guys in the next one, bye.